I realized almost instantly, I realized the number one strategic threat to America is China. There is one strategic level peer threat to America, and it is China. This isn't classified. You can read their intent. It is the One Belt, One Road Global Initiative, their book, Unrestricted Warfare, written by two senior PLA colonels, that says by the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Revolution for 2048, there will be one superpower in the world. It will be Communist China, and every other nation will be defeated, or a satrapy, tributary nation that is, at the feet of Communist China. That's not classified. That's out there. So yeah, and one of the most powerful things they have on their side, which is pure Sun Tzu, is there's no dichotomy between peace and war. The Asian Sun Tzu way of thinking of war is always happening. And right now, whether it's in the economic sphere, the financial sphere, why is the president always talking about rare earth minerals? Because China is trying to corner the market globally. We are in a non-kinetic, non-shooting war right now with the biggest communist regime in the world, and that's the People's Republic of China.
All right, guys, good Friday to you. We made it through the week. What a week it has been. It never disappoints. So much to break down. Seb Gorka is here, our good friend. This is the first time we're going to talk to him since he went back into the White House. Remember, Seb and I served in Trump 1, and now he is there back in Trump 2. What's changed? How are the dynamics? Does he talk to Elon? What challenge do we face? How big of a threat is China? I got a lot to ask Seb Gorka, and as you guys know, if you've been watching the show for a while, he never disappoints. But before I get to that, a couple quick little housekeeping things that are interesting. One of the senior folks in the Biden White House, a guy named Michael LaRosa, went out and talked about how the Biden team handled the press. It's really telling. And again, you're not going to see it many places, so take a look.
How do you bully the press? What do you threaten?
Well, look, there were a lot of ways. I mean, I thought it was weird that they only did interviews for quote approval. There was this thing in Biden world about quote approval. Everything had to be on quote approval. So you talk to a reporter, but like one person decides what the reporter can use, what quotes they can use. There was weird things like that. I mean, you saw them get caught trying to script questions to radio reporters that summer, or summer of 2024. It was very reminiscent to me of being on the campaign in 2020, where these young press staffers in these states like New Hampshire or Iowa or Nevada, they were sort of like dog trained to make the questions conditional for interviews. And I said to them, please never ask the journalist for the questions ahead of time. You can always ask about the topics, but do not ask them for the questions for Dr. Biden. And they said, well, that's what, the other side tells us to do for him. I said, that's okay, fine. That's their problem. My job was to protect my boss, and they could handle we call it the boys' side. The boys' team could do their thing with regard to prepping him for interviews. But I did not want, I knew from being a former producer at NBC, having long relationships in the press, that was just like 101. It was really unethical to be doing that.
Unethical. Whoa. This is a senior Biden staffer who was Mrs. Biden's spokesperson using the word unethical, how they handled the press. It goes both ways, right? They handled the press that way, but the press behaved. You wonder why you never got the full story. That's why. You don't see that in Trump world, do you? They're not, oh, here's how you guys will act. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I don't think that that's ever going to be a question in the Trump administration, but that just tells you the difference. I mean, this is a senior guy calling it unethical what they did. Anyway, Brooke Rollins, personal friend who I worked with at America First Policy Institute, is now the U.S. Department of Agriculture secretary. She's called out a lot of the stuff they're doing to end DEI. But check out this clip that she shared about some seeds that she found at USDA. Take a look.
You're not going to believe what we just found. Behind a door at USDA, we found a whole box of these seeds. And listen, we love seeds here at USDA, but check these out. These are specific tomato seeds that are for growing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility at USDA. I mean, look at these. If you can be anything, be inclusive at USDA. America, this is what we're fighting here in Washington, D.C. This is why we are completely working to realign under President Trump's vision our entire government about returning power to the people, about ensuring that we're putting Americans first, and that we really are going to make America great again. And no longer will we spend tax dollars on diversity, equity, inclusion at USDA.
Okay, that's insane. Remember, I pointed this out before they took office. On the USDA website, they said like their top priority was DEI, not food safety, not getting more farmers and ranchers to deliver more to the American people safely or whatever. I mean, like that was their priority. It's unbelievable what we're exposing in this administration. One last thing before we get to Seb Gorka that I thought was really interesting. There's all these, the Intel officials we talked about all week on Signalgate went up to the Hill to testify. And this is what Congressman Seth Moulton is asking one of the folks about Pete Hegseth. Just take a snippet of this. This is unreal.
Accountability is back. Accountability is back. I quote Secretary Pete Hegseth. That was our Secretary of Defense on the record just a couple of months ago. Now the debate among national security professionals is over whether the secretary was just incompetent or whether he was drunk. That's how low this has gone. And those are serious debates happening among national security professionals today.
Okay, there is no debate. By the way, I wanted to show you a quick photo. He was drinking a glass of water at this press conference, and that's what he's debating on. What an unreal accusation. Unreal. To say this and to perpetuate a lie. No one is talking about this in the national security sphere. That's a lie, Seth Moulton. He has a history of being a huge liar. But to impugn Pete Hegseth on this, you could have a problem with, if you want, about everything that was said in Signal. That's fine. That's a discussion. But to lie about him and to smear him on that, unacceptable. I'm going to get to that with Seb Gorka. Lot to break down with Seb. Before we do that, let me tell you a story about a guy that I've gotten to know really well, Leo Grillo. He was on a trip a long time ago. He comes across this Doberman. The Doberman is underweight, clearly in trouble. What does Leo Grillo do? He takes the dog in, nourishes him back to health, names the dog Delta. It stands for Dedication and Everlasting Love to Animals. And out of that grew Delta Rescue, the world's largest no-kill sanctuary, not shelter, sanctuary. They take in now dogs, cats, horses, all sorts of animals, and give them the veterinarian care that they need, the nutritional needs that they have are all taken care of at Delta Rescue. It's massive. It's huge. The work that Leo Grillo and his team is doing is unreal. And it all depends on people like me and you. No USAID or government grants. It's people like me and you. I've personally made a donation to Delta Rescue, and I would ask you to do the same. Go to deltarescue.org and join me in donating to Leo Grillo and the great work of the folks at Delta Rescue. Go to deltarescue.org to do that. You'll see an estate planning tab there. Do me a quick favor. Just click on it, look at it, read it. If you've got an old 401k or stock that you might want to get out, there might be a tax benefit. Talk to your tax professional, but consider help making Delta Rescue an enduring mission. It's such a great thing that they're doing. Go to deltarescue.org, see if you can help them out. Before I get to Seb, real quick, I get asked all the time, how do I get one of your books? If you go to SeanSpicer.com, there's an About section. Explains how to get any of the 4 books, The Briefing, Radical Nation, Leading America, and the Parrots Go Banana, the children's book, all there at SeanSpicer.com. Plus, you can sign up for the newsletter. It's free. And then I'm having this private Zoom, April 9th. It's a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Just text RSVP to 276-500-1185. We'll go over some of the products that I'm using to make my life more, to get more into the wellness space, alternatives to places like Target and Walmart that are healthier for you. Same price, better. Vote with your dollars to do that. Go to, so just text RSVP to 276-500-1185. Join our private Zoom on April 9th, Wednesday at 8 p.m. All right, it is my pleasure to welcome in Dr. Seb Gorka. He is the Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council there at the White House. Seb, it's always good to see you. This is the first time I think we've had you back since you are now Deputy Assistant to the President again and Senior Director for Counterintelligence. So
counterterrorism, get it right, Spicer. Get it right. Counterterrorism. Honestly, the idea of having you on the board of a military institute. Oops, sorry. Carry on, Spicer.
No, that was a test, and you passed. Just want to make sure you knew your own title. Look, I know you're probably going to have gotten sick of this, but I just want to, you of all people, everyone in this town is speculating about Signal and this and that, and this is your wheelhouse. You're over there. Just walk us through, what has been the week like? Is this a lot of people saying, I know from the outside, everybody throwing around terms like classified, secret, war plans, who have no clue what those words actually mean. And so I just want to know from the inside, how has it been for you guys?
Well, it's just weird because when there was actually classified material being transmitted on unsecure networks hundreds of times, or being stored illegally in degraded cardboard Zappos boxes in a garage by first Hillary Clinton and then Senator Joe Biden. It's weird. I don't remember the 3,000-word pieces by Mr. Goldberg about those instances. So, as our good friend Chris Plant says, I think it's become a mainstay of Washington, D.C. If it weren't for double standards, the left wouldn't have any standards at all. I'm just going to what's it like? It's irrelevant to me because we're killing jihadis every single day. The president has brought back American leadership. Everybody wants to be his friend who understands what he's doing. We've secured the border, illegals down 98%, NATO revitalized, the Secretary General in the Oval Office talking about how great it is to have the Commander-in-Chief back in the Oval Office behind the Resolute desk. So it's kind of the gnat, the little irritating mosquito that's buzzing around, but we couldn't care less and we get on with business.
I know, I always feel when doctors watch that show ER, they probably go nuts that they're that's not actually how you deal with a patient or whatever. When you guys read a lot of the coverage from the National Security Council, was it frustrating to be that's not actually how it works, or this is permitted? I mean, I know sometimes you guys get handcuffed by what you can and can't say because that's not really your job, is to put your nose to the grindstone and get stuff done. But there's got to be an internal water cooler level of, you've got to be kidding me. I can't believe that this is how they're referring stuff. Pete Hegseth tweeted out a couple days ago, this is for a war plan. It lacked time, location, names. I mean, this wasn't he said something, I won't use the S word that he used because this is a family show, but he used, the SH word and said, these are pretty SH plans if they don't include any of the, time, date, location, person, etc. And I think, again, this gets back to, as someone who's in that world, do you look at it and go, how sloppy is this as a reporter?
Sean, I know you're, a private citizen living life at large in the civilian world. We don't have these discussions because we're too busy. I spend literally 12 hours a day in a skiff, and I have about 2 hours, 3 hours with my wife of an evening. I don't have time for this garbage. People are complaining. I'm getting DMs on my Twitter feed of an evening. Hey, Gorka, why aren't you posting? Because yesterday we killed 30 jihadis in Somalia because I'm fixing the last 4 years of counterterrorism not actually happening in the Biden administration. So it's I'm sorry to give you this answer. I don't give a damn.
No, but that's why I want it. I want it because there's this perception of what you guys do, and you're there. And this is what I sometimes hate about the media, is they try to tell everyone what's happening, but I don't want to tell everyone when I can actually talk to a guy who's living it.
Yeah, there are no water cooler discussions because we don't have time for water cooler discussions. We're trying to keep up with the president. I walk out of the SCIF, the Secure Compartmented Information Facility, and I pick up my cell phone and I look at it and go, oh my gosh, what has the president done in the last 30 minutes? And I can't keep up with what he's doing because nobody can keep up with him, okay? So it's like there is no downtime to waste on the fake news of the Goldbergs of this world, the purveyors of the, sore losers, the Russia hoax. And I mean, pick a crap piece of fake news from the last 9 years, and you will find this man's fingerprints on it. And look, if we want to talk about it for just 30 more seconds, I used to read The Atlantic 30 years ago. It's like The Economist. I used to read The Economist, Foreign Policy, Foreign Affairs, when they actually had some substance. Today, they're just gutter press. It's the equivalent of the Daily News, but in a slightly glossier format. It's garbage. It is the purveyor of establishment. You must believe this because we are the establishment. Anti-MAGA, anti-America first. So I think, look, I said it in a tweet on what day was it? Tuesday. Because our amazing guys at JSOC and SOCOM declassified another one of our counterterrorism surveillance videos. And I posted a video of jihadists getting turned into red mist. And I said, just 2 lines. And Mike Waltz came after me the next day and said, that was a cool tweet, Seb. And I said, the Atlantic is in the business of fake news. And we're in the business of killing jihadis.
I saw that. Yeah. I actually thought, by the way, that you're going to say we don't have those discussions because Elon cut all the water coolers.
There aren't any water coolers. You know the EEOB. There are no water coolers in the EEOB.
So I want to ask you one more question, then we're going to move on to your wheelhouse here. How's Mike Waltz holding up as a person? I think he's a good, decent human being, really smart. I having been through these things myself, Seb, you know that. You were there. You and I served together in the first one. There are tough days, and just how is he holding up as a person?
I just came from a meeting where, on his direction at the beginning of the administration, he said, and this will appeal to you as somebody who has served in the uniform, who is now on one of the academy boards. He said, "We have not served the veterans of the GWOT properly. They have been betrayed, not only with the surrender of Afghanistan, but by the friends, the SIVs, the interpreters that the last administration left behind, who had worked and fought with us shoulder to shoulder." And he said, "Seb, I want you to do something about that." And so I convened a meeting today in the EEOB, in the beautiful diplomatic reception room, with GWOT veterans of the global war on terror, to listen to them and to tell them, we are here for you. The commander-in-chief is back. We want to hear what you think about how we left Afghanistan, what the threat to America is. And think of this, in the midst of this stupid, fake storm in a teacup, Mike Waltz takes time to leave the West Wing and come down and to sit with these veterans and talk to them about how they have been ill-served by Joe Biden, and America is back, and we will listen to you. We will recognize what you've done for this country. So Mike Waltz is a Green Beret, and he is doing his duty as the National Security Advisor. So, how's he doing? This is irrelevant to him. It's water off a duck's back.
All right, so let's get into your wheelhouse here a little. You and I talked about this before you're officially assumed the positions. I still think that there's a lot out there on TikTok, and there are attempts to use TikTok from the Chinese government as a means to spy on us, to control us, to spread messages. Where does that issue stand in the White House?
So I don't know where the issue of TikTok per se stands. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, and David Sachs and the AI guys and the special envoys should be guests on your show as well. I'll just quote somebody, a very wise person said this on another podcast maybe 6 months ago, and it kind of stuck in my head, because people talk about the danger for youth, but it's not just a danger to our youth. Think of this. The conventional wisdom with regards to your cell phone is it's your gateway to the world. It's your access point to the world. And this commentator, analyst, author, writer said, completely wrong. Your cell phone is the world's gateway to you. Bad people, bad actors, scam artists, communist regimes, Iran, terrorists, you name it. So, my life has changed immensely, as you're, aware. When you come back into government service, you are a target of certain inimical forces out there. But everyone, not just people who enjoy TikTok, everyone has to understand the cell phone is an evil in terms of the access it gives everyone to you, even when you don't know it. The fact that nobody reads the terms of service, when you click yes on TikTok, you are agreeing to your biometric data being downloaded and saved by the Chinese government. Maybe we want to think twice about that.
Well, and there was a story on Tuesday in the Wall Street Journal that says Trump takes tough approach to choking off China's access to U.S. tech. And I'll read you just the headline. It said the U.S. on Tuesday added dozens of Chinese companies to a trade blacklist over national security concerns. American businesses seeking to sell technologies to the companies will need approval from the government. This to me is obviously, I think sometimes we forget. Everybody, when I talk to someone about this, they're like, oh, no one cares about me, right? They might care about you because you're public, or Seb Gorka because he's in the White House. But I think for the average person, they just don't understand or believe that China cares about infiltrating them. And that ties into exactly what you're saying.
Oh, utterly. Look, and I say this fully cognizant of the position I now hold. And I said this 7 years ago, and I believe it as well. I mean, I came into the administration originally, and especially this time with one mission set, what I've been doing for a quarter of a century, which is counterterrorism, teaching the military, understanding the strategy of groups like AQ and ISIS and so forth. But once I have a PDB briefer. So every morning I get a version of the president's daily intelligence briefing because I'm a senior director. And as soon as you get those clearances, and as soon as you start listening to the actual ground truth, the intercepts, what we know about enemy actors, I realized almost instantly, I realized the number one strategic threat to America is China, without a doubt. We're going to deal with AQ. We're going to deal with ISIS, which we did. We'll deal with the Houthis right now. We'll even deal with Iran, North Korea, and Russia. We can deal with all of these. There is one strategic level peer threat to America, and it is China. And this isn't classified. You can read their intent. It is the One Belt, One Road Global Initiative, their book, Unrestricted Warfare, written by two senior PLA colonels, that says by the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Revolution for 2048, there will be one superpower in the world. It will be Communist China, and every other nation will be defeated, or a satrapy tributary nation that is, at the feet of Communist China. That's not classified. That's out there. So yeah, and one of the most powerful things they have on their side, which is pure Sun Tzu, is there's no dichotomy between peace and war. In the West, we have this idea that, we're at peace. And then suddenly you go to war. Hitler invades Poland. And then the war ends on the deck of the USS Missouri, and we have peace treaties signed. The Asian Sun Tzu way of thinking of war is always happening. And right now, whether it's in the economic sphere, the financial sphere, why is the president always talking about rare earth minerals? Because China is trying to corner the market globally, especially in Central Asia, especially in Africa, on rare earth minerals. Why? Because your stinking phone is full of rare earth minerals. Your Tesla is full of rare earth minerals. If you control power generation, power storage, and processor chips in the 21st century, you kind of got geopolitics sewn up. So think twice about every app you download. Actually read the terms of service and understand we are in a non-kinetic, non-shooting war right now with the biggest communist regime in the world, and that's the People's Republic of China.
It might have even been you. I can't remember, but I got the Michael Pillsbury book a couple months ago, and I've started to read that. And it is an eye-opener in terms of not just the threat they pose, but just how poorly our side has read the threat that they pose.
We think, I remember this, what was it, 8 years ago, when you read that Google is opening its brand new artificial intelligence lab, and they're doing it in China, and you do a little bit of research, and you find out any foreign company that owns or begins a business in China, it is and if you don't, and I'm sure your viewers will not believe it, that's okay, look it up. A foreign entity doing business in China is not allowed to do business in China unless you first declare any IP, any intellectual property you are using as part of that business must be declared to the state of China. It's like, you don't own any of it. You don't own any of the stuff you're developing. And I have to say, God bless, President Trump knew this. I mean, we'll go watch the Oprah interviews from 30 years ago. He was talking about the threat of China, 30 years ago. But thanks to the president, thanks to the likes of Peter Navarro and others, I think we're starting to wake up. And I think, even parents who aren't into politics are waking up to, hey, what exactly is my child doing on their phone? And what is that TikTok thing? We need to take this very seriously. And I'm super excited. I don't know anything about it because I'm a Luddite, but to have the likes of, Mr. Sachs walking around, to bump into Elon with regularity in the White House, that makes me feel a little bit better, because those are the private-public kind of partnerships. I think if we're going to be the greatest power on earth and remain there, we have to be at the forefront. This is the moonshot, right? I know Elon wants to go to Mars, but the moonshot right now, the Kennedy Canaveral project, is artificial intelligence, quantum, AI, all of that stuff.
Just out of curiosity, how often do you bump into Elon Musk walking down the hall?
Well, the trouble is, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but
yes,
he kind of, look, the Oval Office is the Oval Office, and it's the most incredible room in the world, right? I mean, it's the helm of the Commander-in-Chief. I have a soft spot in my place for another part of the White House campus, and that's the Secretary of War Suite. And the Secretary of War, I mean, you literally you step into a museum. Before we had the Department of Defense, the Eisenhower Executive Building was the Defense Department, the State Department, and hopefully we can shrink all of government back down into the EEOB. But Elon likes it too. And so, he's taking it over temporarily as his headquarters.
Oh, no way. That's where he is.
Yeah, he has an office in the West Wing, but he's also, he likes the Secretary of War Suite as much as I do. And so when I'm walking in and out of the Eisenhower Building, I bump into him all the time. The cutest thing, I'll tell you 2 stories. So first thing is I get into the elevator going to my skiff, and there's a little kid with a grown woman who must be the babysitter. And I look at the kid like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and I say, I recognize that camel hair coat. And I realized it was X from the day before when he was riding on Daddy's shoulders in the Oval. And I said in front of the babysitter, I said, hi, I know who you are. And he did the classic little, don't look at me, I'm not famous, and kind of embarrassed. It was so cute to bump into X in the elevator in the White House. And then the other story, which is just as fun, and these are the things that, you pepper into your autobiographies. I'm coming out of the Eisenhower Building down those beautiful Navy steps, this amazing, neoclassicist building entrance. And Mr. Musk is coming down the stairs behind me, and I just couldn't resist. You know me. I say, Mr. Musk, do you mind if I do the awful thing? Do you mind if we do a selfie? And we do a selfie, and then he recognizes me, and he says, you're the terrorism guy, aren't you? And I said, yes, sir. And so he just starts chatting with me on West Executive Boulevard and says, so what's the greatest threat to America, Mr. Terrorism? And I said, oh, that's easy. The fact that the last president had the border open for 4 years, and we don't know who he let in and how many terrorists he let in. And then as I'm going into the West Wing, I shouted to him, but don't worry. And he says, what do you mean, don't worry? And I said, we've got Tom Homan on the case. And he shouts back at me, Tom, I love that guy, straight out of Central Casting. I mean, these are the things that spice up your day, Sean.
Did X look at you, by the way, and say, I know you, you're the terrorism guy?
X had no idea who he was, just a strange guy with a strange accent.
Right. So the thing that dawns on me as you talk about this is, 8 years ago, you left the White House, you launched a very successful radio program, and you returned 8 years later. Most importantly, there were 4 years of Joe Biden. You kind of referenced that in the comment you just made about the border. What has changed when you walked in and you got that first couple briefings? Was it like you going, oh my God, like it's, we've declined so much, or I can't believe what's changed? What was it that jumped out at you between what you saw when you left the EOB, the White House for the first time in Trump 1, and when you came back?
Well, look, there's a couple of big baskets to put that into. Number one, we can talk about how differently the White House operates today from how it operated 8 years ago. And it's incredibly different. And we can talk about what it means to have your friend be the director of the FBI, to have your people your friend be the Secretary of Defense. These are very important differences from 8 years ago. But when it comes to my portfolio, and I've said this publicly already elsewhere, this isn't classified, we have this absurd system in US politics where you win an election in first week of November and you don't actually take over the government till the end of January, which is absolutely insane. It's based upon the speed of a horse-drawn carriage. I mean, if you lose the election in the UK on Friday, you better be out of 10 Downing Street by the end of the week next Friday. I mean, it's just like the idea that you have almost 3 months for the administration to sabotage the incoming president is, can we please do something about that, Congress? But prior to the inauguration, we have this quote unquote transition period. And I have to say, we were authorized to go in. I went into the White House for a whole week before the inauguration for these transition briefs to me as the incoming senior director of counterterrorism. And it was really interesting. It was like a ghost town, all the politicals who are like crying in their Wheaties, had just left. And so what's left? A skeleton crew of professionals from the intelligence community, from DOD, who, the detailees who are keeping the engine ticking before we took over. And I have to tell you, Sean, I got a series of briefings with no politics, no spin. Everybody knew who I was, right? It wasn't aggressive, wasn't combative. And what I heard from everyone, operators, analysts, the global jihadi threat is significantly higher because of the last 4 years, because of the surrender of Afghanistan, because of the open borders. And we have a significant dearth of resources. So the threat's gone up while the capacity to deal with it has been, slashed by the Biden-Harris administration. So that's what we inherited. And one of the quickest fixes we have, and the Daily Mail wrote an amazing piece on this, after the inauguration, and we're not Senate confirmed with the NSC, so I start work literally. I was listening in my earpiece to the president's taking the oath of office as I'm standing at the 17th Street entrance with my PIV card, and I was told, your access card will start to function at 12:01 on the 20th. And I'm literally listening for the president to take the oath of office. At 12:01, I swipe my card, and the turnstile let me in, and I walk into the White House to start work because it's 12 o'clock on January the 20th. And for 9 days, I go across the community of counterterrorism. I go to CIA, I go to DOD, I just listen. So, what do you need? What do you need? Well, what's the problem? Or what the military calls the estimate of the situation. Everyone it's as if they had a script. Everyone I talked to said the same. Really senior people who are not politicals, professionals, said, we've been watching jihadis for 4 years and almost exclusively have been sending the intelligence up to the White House because Jake Sullivan said you can't kill them unless the president says so. And in 99% of the cases, they were not given permission to engage those with blood on their hands, American blood on their hands, or those who were preparing attacks against US citizens or our servicemen in theater. And the chorus I got everywhere is, can we please go back to the terms of engagement we had in 2018 under President Trump the first time round, which devolved to the combatant commanders. If you saw a jihadi, you had certitude. If there were no civilians, you could take action. And my team, I have two people, I'm not going to mention their names, but from a certain special unit in the military, in a certain part of the intelligence community, so the second Thursday of the administration, so we're 9 days in, Mike Waltz asks me to prepare a packet that he presents to the president about this huge terror complex in northern Somalia, a cave complex that ISIS is using, and a key trainer, financier of plots against Americans who's running around this cave complex. And Mike puts it on the Resolute desk and says to the president, sir, our intelligence assets have been monitoring this terrorist and this ISIS cave complex for the last 2 years. And the president looks up from the Resolute desk and says, well, what do you mean watching it? Kill them. He gets out that iconic big Sharpie pen. You know what an op order looks like. Ticks the go box for the op order. My Delta guy is on the phone immediately. And less than 30 hours later, we are in the sit room, in the White House Situation Room, under the West Wing, Saturday morning. The go time is 9:50. And I thought, 9:50, that's kind of a specific time. Maybe the bombs will start dropping at 10 o'clock or 10:15. We're waiting for Mike. Mike isn't there. Where's Mike? Where's the national security advisor? We're in the sit room with all the screens up, connected live to the northern Somalia and to the platforms. Sure, it's like a movie. It was like something out of, Mission Impossible. Mike Waltz walks in at 9:48 and 20 seconds. He sat down in the head chair of Whizzer of the sit room at 9:50. These explosions begin, and it's not special effects, not Hollywood. It's the real thing. And then as soon as the operation's underway, we draft an unclassed version of what we witnessed, sent it to the president, and he tweets out the iconic line. I'll show it to you guys because it was so good. I turned it into an acronym. He said, we took this action against ISIS. The Biden administration didn't want to kill this guy. And at the end of the tweet, in block letters, he put the words, we will find you and we will kill you. This is now the acronym on the Counterterrorism Directive.
Oh, I saw that on your Twitter handle, and I was trying to figure out what that was.
I know. This is the president's viral tweet. WWFY, WWKY. We will find you and we will kill you. That is the motto of the Counterterrorism Directive, because the president's serious. You want to harm Americans? We're going to find you.
So is that a keychain that you have? Like, what is that?
No, that's my White House lanyard. That's for my ID.
Wait, so you guys made lanyards out of it?
I did for my team.
Wow. It's nice to work for Seb. Anyone else you made extra for?
Well, if I see you, I may have an extra one in my pocket for you. Come on.
I may be over there then. Okay. Now I have another reason to.
I think we can get you into the Navy mess. Mr. Board Member. I think we can do that.
That's even more reason. I got two more things I want to touch on you real quick. You mentioned the teamwork. I want to get you're one of these unique people that has been at a senior level in both season 1 and season 2. How different is it?
Oh, incomparable. So let me, because you're a friend, let me be completely candid. The first couple of weeks, people will keep asking, so what's it like to be back? What's it like to be back? And deathly honest, I would say to them, it's a concatenation, it's a cocktail of ecstasy. I walk around the EOB with this big grin, right? Because I've been waiting for this job for about 26 years. It's a combination of ecstasy and PTSD because of what happened to us in the first Trump administration. You can go back and Google what happened to me, what John Kelly did to sabotage the president. And this really, I love all our services, but the Marines are especially close to my heart because I spent 2.5 years at Quantico teaching the Marines. And to have a 4-star general believe it's his duty to undermine the president, the elected commander-in-chief, and to sabotage him. The pre-Mark Milley, the pre-Vindman was John Kelly, and John Kelly is why I had to leave the administration. So, there was trepidation for me to come back into the building, but I'm back there now because the president wants me there. And so that's very different. I'm not just somebody who was working for a guy called Steve Bannon. I'm only there because President Trump told me he wants me back in the building. And through Mike Waltz, he offered me this incredible position. So it's a very different dynamic. But secondly, and this isn't about blowing smoke, cabinet members are all friends. And I'm not a cabinet member, which is fine, right? But the fact that, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, John Radcliffe, these people, Joe Kent, are friends of mine. It means we're what? It means we're a team. It means we get, Dan Bongino, how long has Dan Bongino been a friend of yours and mine? And now he's a flipping deputy director of the FBI. And they're linked by one thing beyond being friends. They're all patriots. And when you have, there's no Rex Tillersons. There's no kind of random guy who doesn't know what MAGA is, just kind of floating around at the cabinet level. They're all patriots who are loyal to America first. And that is a very different place to be at, Sean. And we miss you.
It is weird. The thing that's funny that you bring that up is that I look at these people and I'm like, it's not just like, oh, I know. I saw Sean Duffy earlier this week, Secretary of Transportation. I'm like, God, how long? I mean, he saw me from afar. He's like, hey, Sean, how are you? And it's just, you realize it's not like Washington where that, like, I've known Kash Patel for a while. I've known you for a while. Like Dan Bongino has been a friend and a mentor. And so I just, it's so weird to see this many people. And obviously, as former press secretary, I knew all the cabinet, but you're right. Like Rex Tillerson wasn't buddies with Steve Mnuchin or Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator. He barely knew them. And now these guys all seem to be like buddies and like enjoy each other's company and enjoy advancing the president's agenda. And that's so different.
It's so different because it's like being on the same sports team for years.
Yeah.
But you never were. You were just, you were here at Fox, at Salem.
You know what it is? It's like one of those Olympic teams where they were all in the same league. They get together and like, yeah.
Think about it. People don't even, as you're talking through his name, it's going through my mind. Lee Zeldin is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Scott Besson is a good friend of mine. And I'm going, this is how it should be done, right? This is how, because also when you're fighting entrenched bureaucracy that really doesn't want any kind of change, you need people who can get stuff done with a phone call, right? And that's what we have right now.
All right. Last thing, and I know this is not like your wheelhouse, but you're the closest person that can answer this. There's a big story all week long about 23andMe going bankrupt, right? These people have taken the data and the biometrics of countless, probably millions of Americans. And I got to believe from a counterterrorism standpoint, that's valuable to people that want to do us harm. Is this something like, am I just being nervous Nelly on this stuff?
No,
or is this something that you are saying, everyone keeps seeing these stories on the news that say, oh, here's how you get rid of your data. But I think it's Seb Gorka saying, hey, from an NSC standpoint, I'm worried about that data being compromised in a way.
Oh, I'll give you far more. And this is so funny you're asking me this. So literally last week, I was at a tier 1 element that will go unnamed. And
what's
they
a
have
tier 1 element?
So tier 1 special operators, right? But a very, very special subgrouping that specializes in technology for our tier 1 SOF, for our special operation forces. So these are like, the real Mission Impossible techies, okay? and so I'm going around every part of government to just see what we can do and what we've developed since I left government. And this is the wake up call, all right? This is the Damascene moment. Forget about they know your gene code and they could target you potentially, based upon your genetic DNA data. How about this? And I'm sitting there. Okay, so I'll make it hypothetical. Have you ever rented a car, Mr. Spicer?
Of course.
Okay. And when you get in the car and you've got like a 2-hour drive from the airport to wherever you're going, have you ever linked the Bluetooth from your phone?
Oh my God. You know what? I have to get my music, and I know I'm now. Okay.
So you've done it to get your music, right? As have I. And it always asks you, and you're always very scrupulous, it asks you, would you like to download contacts? And you press N. Sean, just because you press N doesn't mean your contacts
don't tell me this.
download. Wakey. And that's just renting a car. Think about your DNA.
See, I in the military, it's been a DOD policy that you're not allowed to use 23andMe for a reason. And this is why. And now and everyone said, oh, what's the harm? And I'm like, this place went bankrupt, and all of this stuff is now floating in the ether for some adversary to take advantage of.
If you think somebody having your phone book may be problematic because you've got cabinet members, you've got military in there, you may have the president's phone number. If you think that's bad floating around, being accessed by anybody who can connect to that car rental company's router, how much more significant is your DNA fingerprint? And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that was the answer I thought you'd give. Listen, first of all, thank you for being so generous with your time. You've got big bad guys to catch, and I know how valuable it is. So thank you for continuing to come here and share this with us. But this is the kind of inside knowledge that I think makes the show special. Having these connections with not just all these other people, but you to share with us this. So thank you for your time, your insight, and frankly, Seb, your service, because I know you gave up a big deal at Salem Radio, a very, very popular and influential show, to go back into service. And people don't fully appreciate what that means financially. So I thank you and Katie, your wife, for sacrificing for the country again.
Well, thank you. It would not have happened. I asked my wife, I think, 7 times, are you sure you want me to take an 80% pay cut to do this? And, it's only because she said so that we are where we are today. Hey, congratulations to you. Congratulations to Walt and Outer, two so deserving individuals. Can't wait for your first board meeting. And dude, if you want a lanyard, you know where to find me.
All right, I'm coming over. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend.
God bless.
All right, guys, before we leave, I just want to give you a quick weekend moment of excitement. A young kid visiting D.C. jumped through the gates of the White House. Check this out. And the Secret Service picks him up and brings him back. How cute is that? I mean, that is so, I'm sure the parents were like, how do we get our kid? And there you go. The Secret Service officer there carrying him back. Anyway, just thought I'd end the week on a high note for you, just showing what great guys these are. As I mentioned earlier in the show, go to SeanSpicer.com. Got a great new column out today on tariffs. It's all free. Obviously, love a VIP member. Go to SeanSpicer.com to sign up. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.